welcome back to Real Men of Real Estate. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today we are in the studio with Bill Tan. Bill, we were talking about notes before the break, and I had one more question on the notes before we move on, and that is, how does somebody get started in doing notes? Because most people don't know anything about it.
Well, they should take a class. They really should.
And where would they take a class?
There are there are a few note classes, but there's some books that they can check out.
So they could contact you, because I know you have a company where you train people, right?
Yes.
So they could contact you and you could point in the right direction. So how would they get hold of you? What's your website or what's your phone number?
My website is BillTanInvestments.com. That's BILLTAN, investments with an S.com.
Okay, if they go there, they'll find a way to get hold of you and get direction in how to get started in notes or anything else. So that's one step. And then once they learn that, what's kind of the first step? Do they need a lot of cash laying around? How are they going to get involved in this? How do they know who to find?
Well, I think they should take what talents they have. Okay. And what they have to work with, because many people who want to get into real estate don't have any money and they don't have enough education. So what I say is just start walking neighborhoods that you feel comfortable walking in and look for houses that are vacant.
Okay, so a vacant house means something's gone wrong.
That means that there's a problem there for some reason or another. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we trace that back, now I find a vacant house, how do I know who to contact about that vacant house?
That's part of your education
Okay,
process.
so you go to the education and you'll learn how to make those connections.
Correct. One easy way is to contact a title company, your local title company. They'll put you in touch with a title rep, and the title rep will give you access to being able to public records to find out who's the owner of the property. Now, the owner of the property may have passed away.
Okay.
So you might have to do additional due diligence to find out who
are the heirs and assigns. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Great. Okay, so
don't need any money to do that, Steve.
You don't need money to do that, no. And what you find out in real estate is you don't have to have 7 figures sitting around in order to start doing real estate. I think a lot of people believe they can't do it because they don't have enough money and it's going to take them so long to save up and they just don't know how to do it. And the fact is, there's a lot of money out there, especially right now with pretty low consumer debt. There's a lot of cash available and looming inflation. People don't want it sitting in cash. They want it somewhere else. And there's a lot of people that are more than happy to give you money if you're going to do the work and you're going to make money for them. They'll share with you. So
I tell anybody that wants to get started, learn how to find properties that are opportunities. First, you have to learn how value of properties. Then you can learn what opportunities there are with existing houses that people are living in, but also vacant properties. If you learn how to find good deals, money will chase you.
That's a fact. Okay, so now that gets us into the next topic I want to talk about, which is creative deal making. Because most people out there think, okay, real estate means you call your local realtor because you saw a listing. It was on Zillow, it was on the multiple listing service, whatever. And then we call the realtor and then they show us the property and then we can buy it. And that is one of about 3 million ways you could possibly buy property, but it's the only way most people know is the traditional way. So let's talk about how to create. If you just mentioned going out and finding some vacant houses and doing some research, what are some of the things we can do that are probably somewhat unknown, but they're not secret, they're not proprietary, they're just kind of unknown? What are things we can do?
Well, one thing right now is that we have properties that are worth more than they've ever been worth before.
Right, which is...
And so if anybody had any loans against that property, if they owed any money, then they have what's called equity.
Okay, so the difference between what they owe and what the property would sell for today.
Correct. And so people can now buy properties from existing homeowners and ask the homeowner to finance the sale. So have the homeowner be the bank. Because what are they going to do with the money? Unless they're going to go buy another property, most likely they're going to put it in the bank.
And actually, if they took all that money, they'd probably give half of that away to the government in the form of taxes. But if they were the financer, they're getting installment payments and they would only owe taxes on the amount of money they collected during that year.
Correct. So you might ask the person, how about if I give you a little bit of money now and some every month?
Right.
To repay the debt.
So they may want money now that covers the cost of moving, maybe getting the down payment on where they're going to, or set utilities up, and then monthly you provide them a little bit of income.
And this is particularly
out.
effective for someone who's older, who's moving
Retired.
from a bigger house to a smaller.
Okay, great. And so now they have something to supplement their retirement income as well, and basically putting that big asset to work.
If they were to put that money in the bank, right now, I believe banks are paying 0.1 of 1%
Yes,
interest.
it rounds. If you rounded it off to the nearest 2 decimal points, it would be 0.
It'd be 0.
Yes.
And so if you were to pay them 3 or 4%, you're paying them 30 to 300 times more than they would get in a bank.
Absolutely.
And it's secured by the house that
And
used to
so
live in.
if you, and their security is if you stopped paying, they just come take the house back again and go sell it again to someone else.
Correct.
So what a deal is that? It's almost a no risk deal. They just have the hassle of having to throw you out of the house is all.
And in addition to that, seller financing, the house may have a loan against it already. And we now have historically low interest rates
That we'll probably not see again.
that we'll probably not see again that are on these homes. And one technique is to buy the house subject to the existing loan that's on it.
Okay, so that means that you are taking their loan over.
You're taking their loan over. You're not assuming the loan, but you're taking over the payments, the responsibility for the payments. That means you don't have to go out and get a new loan.
So now does that mean you pay them and they pay the bank, or you pay the bank directly in their name?
Well, when I do it, I want to protect all parties possible, so we use a servicer, a third-party servicer,
Like an escrow?
like an escrow.
Right.
The payment goes there, and then they pay the bank, they pay the seller of the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that they have a $1,500 a month mortgage payment that's due, and you're going to pay them $2,000 a month because they're doing a carryback, and so you send the $2,000 a month to escrow, $1,500 goes to the bank, $500 goes to the seller, and you're in. And you didn't have to go through the process of qualifying for a loan at the bank with all the paperwork in the background and all the stuff.
And right now, it's more difficult to get a new loan than it is to refinance a property that you already own.
Yes. Yeah, that's what when anybody ever tells me, oh, it's kind of just like it was in 2006, the economy, it's going to go down. Like, no. Because back then, the local Walmart greeter could have 4 or 5 rental homes based on stated income, and now it takes a lot to get a mortgage. It takes a lot of effort.
Well,
to
you
get
mentioned
loans.
this thing called stated income. That means you didn't have to prove your
That's
income.
what I'm saying. You had these people out there working minimum wage jobs that had 3 or 4 rental houses, and of course, that meant that as soon as a renter moves out, the whole thing collapses and they're done. They have no money.
A house of cards.
It's a house of cards, which is why everything collapsed, and we're nowhere near that situation right now. Entirely different situation. Okay, so what are some other things that we can do that are kind of more creative and maybe less known?
Well, one that people know part of, but they don't know the other half of. One is called a lease option. And that
Okay.
is you rent the property if you're unable to buy it at this time. You rent it till the time you can buy it. And if you structure it properly, if the property goes up in value, you get that increase in value. When
So
it
I
comes time
lock
to
in the
buy it.
price today.
You lock into today's price, and if it goes up, then you exercise the option, and then you get to pocket the difference. If it goes down, you do not exercise your option.
Okay, so now why would an owner want to do that deal with me when they're basically giving up their right to the future appreciation?
Well, everybody has a different situation in life. Now, they may want to, for tax reasons, continue to own the property and lease it out.
They get the mortgage write-off.
They get the mortgage write-off,
Okay.
or they may have the property may be free and clear, and they get the entire income from the lease payment.
Oh, I see. So they would do that because that guarantees them a cash flow instead of just living there and they don't pay anything. Now, if they do that, they can still live there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because you're doing a lease on it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to move into it.
Correct.
So they can still live there, but now they're getting paid to live in the house they live in exchange for foregoing any future upside. And when you decide to exercise that option, you can buy the house at the price it was the day you made the contract, even if the house is appreciated by 35%.
Well, I have done deals with homeowners where the increase in price, we shared that.
Oh,
profit.
split.
We
Okay.
split it. And that is sometimes much more attractive.
Well, 50% of something's always worth more than 100% of nothing.
Right. And who's
right?
taking care of the property? I am. They don't take
Okay.
care of it, and they're going to get the benefit from that.
Good. Okay. So it really, to go about this, what you're really doing is trying to figure out, how can I solve this person's problem? What do they need? what would make their life easier? And if I can find a way to do that and also benefit from the transaction, then I've got probably a winning strategy.
Correct. And sometimes they don't realize that they have a problem, but they realize they have a need.
Okay. Yeah. Well, any need we have means there's an unmet problem somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
But sometimes people don't realize that until you talk to them.
Okay. And a lot of times people don't realize there's a solution to the problem because, again, all we're ever taught is 2 or 3 basic ways of doing things.
Correct. They're not educated enough.
Right.
So one reason you want to educate yourself is to be able to show them another way of doing things that you can both benefit from.
And I've discovered that even people that are so-called experts in real estate, people that are real estate agents, that training does not educate you in most of the ways to really make money in real estate or how these things can work.
Real estate agents are taught, in most cases, how to list a property, how to protect their broker, and turn over any financing opportunities to a loan officer.
That's right. And so they're taught the traditional way of doing things.
The traditional
This is
way
our
of
1 or
doing
2 ways of doing everything. That's right.
And one other thing, if you're going to go through a real estate agent to look for deals, just realize that there are hundreds of other eyes looking at those same deals.
That's right. That's why you want to buy. That's why you mentioned going buy the vacant house. Buy something that's not on the listing, and talk directly to the seller. Okay, and so that gets us to another key point, and that is, where do you learn this stuff? You happen to be an expert in providing education to people on a lot of this. So I know you have a calculator workshop where you teach people how to do the basic functions of figuring out payments based on future value and present value, all the kind of stuff that scares us. When we look at these formulas, they go, oh my gosh, I can't do that. You are really good at putting the cookies on the bottom shelf and talking people through. This is a fairly simple calculation, and if you use this formula, you can figure out whether this is going to make money for you or not, or it's a good deal. So explain a little bit about that, and explain what other kind of education you provide.
Sure. I teach a financial calculator classes. I actually teach some of them. And the reason I teach is because finance affects all aspects of our life. You mentioned a car earlier. Cars are financed. Homes are financed. What's the number one financed vehicle? Credit cards.
At the highest possible interest. It's almost
At the
usury
highest-
rates.
The highest possible interest. Hospital debt, student debt. These are all financed. Most people have no idea how those are calculated, and in every case, they are paying what's called interest. And in my classes, I teach them to think of interest as rent, because you are just borrowing the money, you're renting it for a period of time, you have to pay for that renting it, and then you have to give it all back.
That's right.
So I show them to see in their life how much they're paying in rent. Most people have no clue, because when just about everything is sold, if you hear about it advertising, they say it's only $400 a month.
That's right.
They don't talk about the price as much as you can be in this for $100 down and $400 a month.
That's right.
They don't realize how much interest/rent they are paying on that property. So I expose them to that. And then I also show them how we calculate profits in making in the note business, as being a note investor, or how to lend out money, when you lend out money, how you're making money, annuities, discounting cash flows, because most people don't realize that when you buy a note, you're buying a cash flow.
Right. Okay. So let's. I want to finish up that thought when we come back from the commercial break. This is Real Men in Real Estate. We're talking to Bill Tan. We're talking creative deal making. We'll be right back after this, and we'll wrap it up.